As I laid my head down and closed my eyes, watching the stars and moon hang in the sky, I began to dream, although this was a peculiar dream. There were two animals, a hare and a fox, that appeared before me. I had a bird's eye view of the United States, the land I called home, and watched as the hare headed west, leading me along the Oregon Trail while the fox stayed behind, moving around in circles around a single city I knew all too well. Nashville, Tennessee, the place I called home. The next day I bolted awake and headed over to the church I attended every Sunday and explained to the priest everything I had seen last night. He turned pale and told me I had been chosen for something and that something was to make a journey out west. He explained that I was being granted a choice to stay in Nashville and keep living in a comfortable way or go west and change the nation with the hare. I thought about this as I went about my daily duties of tidying up the house and land which my family and I had been living on for generations. Would I really leave this place behind and go west? Did I have the strength to do it? I did not believe that I did. I told Ariana about my dream when I returned, and she thought it was a wonderful idea. She was always more religious than I was and jumped at the opportunity to head west, explaining that if it truly was God beckoning us out west, then we would have to choose to follow the hare. I finally made up my mind at the very end of the day to sell the farm and gather my family to get ready to ride these next few weeks. Spring was coming, and there would be no better time than now to be prepared. My neighbors told me they would head out too. There was no going back now, and despite having the comfort of safety in numbers, I was getting the feeling like things were going to go poorly. I should not be a coward on this matter. No one else had any doubts about going. All my neighbors and wife could do was talk about how the land was much nicer out here, and I could not help but believe her. There was still sadness in my soul about leaving. Nashville was my home. I had never lived anywhere else in my life, or to make matters worse, I had never even fired a rifle before. I was ill-prepared for this journey, but it had to be done. If it truly was God beckoning me onwards, then I had no choice but to lead them on this journey. Our wagons made it to Independence, Missouri. We tied up our horses at night and paid for the guards to watch over our belongings. I was nervous about going to sleep because despite those 2 weeks of peaceful sleep, I knew something was bound to happen eventually. Perhaps I would get to dream again, and this time I wondered what I would see. Sure enough, when my head hit the pillow, I had a dream about the hare continuing to run west, and I ran with him, but along the way the fox stepped in my way. Turn back, Ryan. There is nothing for you out there but death, both of those of your neighbors and that of your own. What do you think you'll find out there? A nice city filled with friendly people? Or perhaps you seek death? If you seek death, it will find you. Stay where you are at and settle. All who you know will be thanking you for your struggles. Away from me, I yelled. I will not leave Ariana and my neighbors to the fate of stagnation here in Independence. I will take them where the cattle graze better grass and the farmland is of better quality. I have already given all I have, and now you wish for me to give up my destiny? No. I will go west, and there is nothing you can do to stop me. With that, I woke up to see the rising sun, knowing full well tomorrow would bring challenges, but I was ready to face them. The ride was long and hard, but we were enduring the best we could. All our supplies were still intact, except for those which we had already eaten and drank. Our horses were still doing really well. I was letting them get plenty of rest and food and water. My neighbors did the same with their horses as well. We were making good time, so I did not think much of danger, which was a mistake. Several bandits came over the ridge and I began to fire at them, and I was missing most of the shots. One hit a horse, and the bandits were riding caused him to fall on the ground with his leg pinned. With him dispatched, the others grew angered and fired rapidly in my direction. I fired once more and struck the rifle, causing it to blast backwards, stunning him. My neighbors took care of the other two, and we kicked our steeds into overdrive and made our escape. But I had the feeling I could have done better with my shooting. I would need more practice in case we encountered another group of bandits. I could not bear the idea of not being able to defend my wife and neighbors when the next group appeared. I prayed to God to prevent any more bandits from crossing our path, but I had a feeling something else was coming, something worse than that which we had already encountered. A feeling of unease I could not quite explain. Perhaps the fox was right, and I should have stayed in Independence or back in Nashville. Perhaps I would have been safer there, but there was nothing I could do now, as turning back would only lead to more misery, and I would not risk the lives of everyone because of my anxieties. Another dream, and this time I saw the hare running through a field toward the cave entrance while a gray storm clouds gathered in the distance. There was a river that was winding downwards on the right beside the fox. He started grinning at me and smiled, and then with a thump of his tail, thunder struck a tree and lit it ablaze. Rain started falling from the heavens, and the river overflew its banks, heading straight towards me, where it hit me, causing me to wake up. I noticed immediately the environment around me was now resembling the dream, and this caused me to panic a bit as I began to understand that this was a premonition, and I had to get ready. Above me, storm clouds were swirling, causing me to grow with panic. I took the reins of the wagon and I commanded my neighbors to follow me up the path I had witnessed the hare take. Right as lightning struck the trees around me, set them ablaze, and the river overflew its banks and started swelling right as we were crossing. Ariana and I moved a wagon across just the right right moment, but our neighbors were not so lucky. Theirs was swept up by the river, and I could hear them screaming for help. I spurred my horse onwards to the cave, noticed a fox that was smiling at me from the distance in the entrance of the cave, causing me to stop and question what I was doing. These were my companions for my entire journey. I had dined with them, slept beside them, and now I was just going to leave them. The cowardice. I told Ariana to continue to the cave and jumped into the water and swam until I found my neighbors. I helped them onto a log and helped them to the shore with superhuman strength and walked them to the cave system, into my wagon, and now at the entrance of the cave, and rushed into the cave, emerging on the other side where not a single storm cloud was of me. I had one last dream as I entered the Oregon territory. The fox and hare stood in front of me, to which I banished the fox and chose the hare, establishing the town of Salem, the future capital of the state of Oregon, signed into law by President James Buchanan, with me as its first United States Senator from Oregon.